Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jack Farmer. He is Andy Rossi, and this is the Evolution of Movies show. And have we got a good one for you, Andy? Already putting the dukes up. You're ready to go.
My Frank Dukes, yeah.
You have you been training? Did you get your montage in? Your training montage in before this episode?
I mean, after watching this movie, I definitely need to do something because what I'm doing ain't working.
Well, fortunately, we have someone here to help us carry the load, and it's someone that we call Old Reliable around here. We've never said that, but I'm going to start calling him Old Reliable. Flobo Boyce, how you doing, you old gunslinger?
I am so excited to talk about the rousing comedy Southpaw this week. It's going to be a laugh riot.
Yeah, I knew you do stand-up comedy, Flobo, so I was like, you know what we should have you on for? Southpaw.
All right, I'm glad to be here in all seriousness.
Yeah, anything you want to shill at the beginning of this? I don't need to set it up for you because you've done enough of these. Anything you just want to shill?
Nope. No, I'm just kidding. Flobito.com is the website, FLOBITO.com, and the YouTube channel, youtube.com/FLOBOBOYCE.
Such a shill. Shameless in your approach. Let's get into this show already. This is the Evolution of Movies show, and what it is we watch a movie and then we talk about it book club style. We call it the Evolution of Movies, though, because we always pick a movie that came out 1 year after the last movie we watched. So, started in 1980, went to 1981, 1982. Now we're all the way up to 2015.
Dang.
A time when movie theaters were filled with hits like The Big Short, The Martian, and of course, Get Hard with Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart. But we aren't talking about any of those. We're talking about Southpaw, a movie that IMDb describes as after a fatal incident sends him on a rampant path of destruction, a champion boxer fights to get custody of his daughter and revive his professional career. Flobo Boyce, have you seen this movie before, and what were your thoughts going into it this time around?
I'm going to say no, but I've seen images 3 rows back on a flight one time. And I was like, that looks interesting, but I never got around to it until I was asked to do it. Yeah, I know, right? It definitely was an interesting experience. And I guess that is an accurate IMDb description, but that just sounds like he's wearing a suit all the time. You know what I mean? Like, gotta save my daughter while I go to my professional law office downtown. But
it sounds like a court drama.
Yeah.
And you know what?
That's weird.
I'm going to actually I'm going to touch on that in a little bit once we get through this movie. But yeah, and by the way, if you haven't watched half a movie on a flight, have you even been on a flight? Because that's the way you're supposed to fly. You half watch a movie on someone else's screen.
Isn't it? Oh, okay, like that. I was just saying, I don't know if they still do this on planes. I think so. When you're watching a movie on a plane and then that pilot comes on and wants to tell you some nonsense, I'm like, I'm in the middle of a monologue here.
You mean safety instructions?
Yeah.
Nonsense.
Bro.
I was actually watching Dark Knight. The Dark Knight. It's the one with the Joker in it. That's just the Dark Knight, not Dark Knight.
Yes.
Anyways, I was actually watching it, not on someone else. I was actually watching it, but the plane landed before it was over, and I had seen it before, but I was still like, "Come on, man, circle for a little bit." I'm
around a little bit.
Drive around.
In any case, we're not talking about the Dark Knight Returns.
Does it still play though when you land? Like, could you actually, if you wanted to, just stay on the plane while people are starting to depart? You're like, oh, I'm good, sir. You're in row 3. You're tired. Oh, I'm good. I'm gonna wait for the last
3-hour movie.
You're in the aisle seat. Can you let the other people out? Sorry, this is the good part. Can't do it.
Sorry, I don't want to miss this.
He's about to light the money on fire. Can't do it.
On that 6-inch screen.
Now we're talking about Southpaw, though. Now, Andy, this is where we ask you about your thoughts on Southpaw, and can you guess that Rotten Tomato score?
I was so excited when this movie was talked about to be made because Kurt Sutter wrote it, who I love from Sons of Anarchy, and Eminem was attached originally. So I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. And then when I heard Gyllenhaal, one of my dream boats, was attached, I was very excited.
One of them.
Yeah, there's a long list.
Very long list.
It's pretty long. But the first time I saw it, I loved it. I thought it was great. This time around, I'll be honest, I was like, is this movie still going? Like, it just almost seemed like an episode of something. It wasn't as deep as I remembered. However, I did enjoy it. I think the fight scenes are great. So I don't think critics loved it, but I think people did enjoy it. So I'm gonna go like somewhere in the middle-ish. I'll go 62. How about that?
That's not middle at all.
I said middle-ish.
It is kind of in the middle-ish of what most reviews are that we get on this show.
Thank you, Jack.
But Flobo, you have the
I'll never be invited back again.
old reliable. We used to call this guy old reliable, and then he came stepping all over the bit. Flobo, you have the daunting task of picking. Do you think the actual score is higher or lower than 62%? I will say one time Andy guessed it exactly correct.
Are we talking about the audience score or the critic score?
Critic score.
I guessed. Wait, not How to Lose It. What movie did I guess right? He's Just Not That Into You. I got it perfect.
Andy knows he's just not that into you inside and out. So
yeah, I know, for real. It's on brand. Price is Right rules. I'm gonna say 1%. No, I'm gonna say 55. Why not?
So you think it's lower than 62?
Yeah.
And you're picking 55. Well, the answer is Rotten Tomatoes has it sitting directly at 60%.
Oh,
so it was lower than the 62%, but Andy, very, very close. Yeah. I was kind of surprised it was that low. I had never seen this movie before. My biggest memory of it was Jake Gyllenhaal talking to Colin Cowherd about it when it came out during press. And I remember thinking, must be a slow news week when you have someone who plays an athlete on the sports show.
I mean,
with all due respect, but it was, I remember thinking that's interesting.
But I mean,
I
thought you could get Jake Gyllenhaal on your show. I mean, you just go for it.
That's true too. I mean, if we could have got him on this show, Flobo wouldn't have been here.
Yeah, for real. I'm definitely the second. Oh, Jake said no. Hey, Flobo, what's going on?
Yeah. So it's but I thought this was like a well-received movie when we were going to watch. I thought this was just going to be one of those like Oscar bait movies. And I'm going to be honest, I was excited to see it. I didn't like it. We'll get through this, but I found the movie to feel like it was trying to be like 5 different movies at the same time.
Ooh.
Is what it came across to me, which I think the individual pieces would have been good, but trying to be everything made it feel like things didn't fit together in a way that I liked. And we'll get into that, though. We'll talk about it. But first, thank you to everyone who is listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or iHeartRadio. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you also. But hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe. If you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a review. Why don't you? We haven't gotten a review in a long time. Leave a review.
Yeah.
Leave a comment on YouTube and let us know what you thought of the movie. And if there's anything that you agree with or disagree with in the comments, that'd be fun to see. And like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let's talk about the movie called Southpaw. Billy the Great Hope gets his fists taped before a fight and before he gets punched in the face a lot. But hey, he wins the match and he retains his light heavyweight championship. After the match, a bloody Billy thanks his family, but Miguel Escobar says Billy's never been hit by a real man. So Billy wants to fight him, but 50 Cent tries to talk him out of it. Back home, Billy says goodnight to his daughter, and Billy's wife wants him to take a break from fighting, and he begrudgingly agrees to give it all up. The next day, 50 Cent is pitching a new deal, but Maureen says no thanks. Instead, Billy is going to speak at a charity event. Obviously, the charity event is where a lot of stuff happens. But before we get into that part, Flobo, tell us about this world we're going to live in and the characters that inhabit it.
Now, it pays off later on, but I was kind of upset there was no Southpaws in that match. I was like, hey, it's called Southpaw. I'm left-handed. What the hell's going on? You know?
Yeah.
But I thought it was kind of interesting. It was kind of, in my notes, I was like, wow, the good guy's getting his ass kicked. That's always cool. But to your point there, it didn't seem like I've seen it before. The significant other saying, hey, you got to stop doing it. You know, I was like, well, you know, this thing paid for you kind of thing. I said, all right, it's all set dressing. Things are going to ratchet up and swerve and change, be different. So I'm willing to slog through this part of the movie.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because in my notes, Andy, my question to you and what I'd love for you to comment on is, why does it feel like, and I feel like I'm going to get in trouble for this, but why does it feel like female characters in movies like this are always trying to stop the male character from pursuing their dream?
it's literally a character that Heidi Gardner on SNL does. It's her character, like on Weekend Update, is like wife of boxer or something, and it's like literally that same thing. You can't get in there. You got to get out of the ring. Like it's like so. Yeah, it's like, where were they in the beginning? In the beginning, were they like, yeah, go for it? And then once they got the money, now are they saying like, don't do it anymore? I don't know. It is like a weird character. It's in like every fighting movie though.
Yeah, and to double back on that though, Andy, it's the tough guy always wants to prove himself, but he also loves his family, has to choose between this world of being a fighter and being a dad. It's cliche, but it is kind of like the perfect character for a fight movie, right?
Absolutely. And what Flobo said, which I wanted to talk about too, is it's called Southpaw. I mean, for all you people listening that know about sports, Southpaw is lefty. So it's like, I thought, oh, Jake Gyllenhaal must be like a left-handed fighter. That must have a big significance in this movie. Or if you're a Chicago White Sox fan like myself, the mascot's name is Southpaw. So I thought maybe he would make a cameo. But neither things happen except for a little bit.
It's not even a baseball movie.
Well, you never know.
It's kind of like press passes it upstairs.
At the end of the movie, he fights Southpaw.
He just runs in. If you don't know what Southpaw looks like, by the way, from the White Sox, Google it. I don't know what he is. He's like a dragon green slime thing. I don't know what it is. So that would have been good. But yeah, he's only Southpaw, spoiler alert, at the very end for like a second. And so yeah, that was confusing to me, but I was hook, line, and sinker in the beginning. They got like this hip hop music blasting. Gyllenhaal is ripped, and just like when he does that close up on the camera with his mouthpiece, where he's like, ah, there's like blood, and I'm a sucker for that. So I'm like all in, and I think one of his best acting moments is when he wakes up after the fight the next morning, and just that like him like you really feel like he just went through like a fight. And I can only imagine, especially he's around our age, so what was that, 6 years ago? No way I would have lasted around. But just like him getting up and just doing like the aches and pains of a boxer, especially I wrote down his record, 43-0. This dude's been fighting a long time. So, he's got a lot of.
I'm sorry. I kind of tuned you out. I'm trying to figure out what the heck is Southpaw from It's like people think it's an alligator frog or even a dirty sock. And I'm like, what is this?
A dirty sock. It's green.
Apparently the team says it's a guy who really loves the White Sox, but that's not the whole point of it.
It's the worst mascot ever.
Not to derail this show, but mascots have really started phoning it in on what they are. Like, so many of them are just like, it's a weird thing, and we call it name.
Yeah.
Like, no, you got to be something.
Jack, take a second, real quick, and just Google Southpaw White Sox.
I did. He looks like Oscar the Grouch.
What is he? What does he have to do with baseball?
Why is Oscar the Grouch the Chicago White Sox?
It's so funny too when people that I don't know ask me about it. I go, I don't know what you're talking about. What mascot? Like we don't want to like take. We take notice that we have a mascot. Oh, I don't know who that guy. I don't know, but he's everywhere.
Like, why? What happened to the days where your team was the Mustang and you had Mustangs and you had a Mustang as a mascot, and it makes sense and it's easy. I don't get why this is supposed to be a conversation about Southpaw, but now I'm all worked up about mascots.
Yeah, I mean, the White Sox just have a guy in a big sock.
Yeah,
Sock Man. Hey, look at Sock Man.
Right. And their rival is the Red Sox, who's a Red Sox.
Here comes sock, other sock guy. Sock guy versus Sock Man.
Yes. Just totally unacceptable. But yeah, this opening, it's so funny. This opening part of the movie, wildly cliche, but I feel like it was kind of, speaking of mascots, gritty enough that I felt like I was I'm in. I'm here for it. Gritty, kind of cliche boxing movie. You see the synopsis, I'm like, it's gonna be kind of like a Rocky. I get it. He's probably gonna lose a match and then have to find a way to come back and win. I get it. I'm in for it. Not changing the world. I will say it was very hard for me to see past the actors in this movie. Like, it definitely felt like I was watching Jake Gyllenhaal not Billy Hope. And it felt like I was watching, to jump ahead, Forrest Whitaker. You know, it felt like I was watching. I don't even remember
Rachel
50
McAdams.
Cent's name.
No.
I literally, but it felt like, oh, this is 50 Cent talking. It didn't feel like it was. And it's weird because I felt like their acting was good. I just didn't lose the character, if that makes sense.
On a scale of 1 through 10, how hunky do you think Jake Gyllenhaal is in this movie?
Oh, if you got 6-pack, you're automatically 7.5 or higher.
Yeah, it's a loaded question. He's literally a dreamboat. He said it a minute ago.
Yeah,
it's more like a dream freighter. I don't know. Let's continue on with this movie.
Say freighter.
Like a freight.
No, yeah, I gotcha. Dream freighter.
Yeah, rolls right off the tongue. Makes sense.
Might catch on, yeah.
I'm gonna get a shirt that says that. So at the charity event, Billy gives a speech, and afterwards, Miguel Escobar shows up and picks a fight, and the two brawl before a gun goes off and Marine is shot and killed. Billy spends the night speaking with police, but no suspect is ever found. Eventually, Maureen is buried and the family has to deal with her not being there anymore. Billy gets a gun and, against his friend's protest, goes out looking for Miguel, but only finds a woman with kids who wants a hit. That's not the end of Billy's problems. His money is drying up, so 50 Cent gets him to sign the new contract, but it leads to Billy Hope getting pummeled and he loses, headbutting a ref after the match. Billy's assets are frozen. He's getting sued. He's suspended. His contract is nullified, and he has to sell the house. Also, no trainers want to work with him. On top of all of that, his old trainers and 50 Cent are now working with Miguel Escobar. This leads Billy to crash his car and head to the hospital, and his daughter is taken to child services. In court, Billy is told he has to go through sobriety checks and anger management where they will reassess. But until then, his daughter is going into the system and his house is foreclosed. I have this thing when I watch TV shows or watch movies, and I think this would be like international news. And I'm trying to think, he's 43-0 world champion. This would be like
he's Mayweather.
If Mayweather lost a match and headbutted a referee and then lost everything within the course of a week, that would be all over there'd be crazy media coverage, but this movie acts like it was like, whoopsie daisy.
Yeah, and his wife was shot.
His wife was shot and killed. Could you imagine Mayweather's wife is shot and killed at a charity event by the guy while he's fighting with a guy who's been calling him out? That would be the craziest news story.
It's so funny you mentioned that because I was thinking in the movie, he's probably super famous, but I noticed like everywhere he went, no one recognized him. And I was like, wouldn't you if we're comparing him to like Mayweather or like De La Hoya, something of that caliber, oh my God, Mayweather. De La Hoya, nobody ever is like, Billy, is that you?
Billy Hope, is that you?
But you're right. Yeah, they should have definitely had like that scene in a movie where it like cuts to, ESPN's talking about Good Morning America, whatever these, a bunch of different shows, because it'd be like everywhere. Like, you're right. Yeah. They kind of just graze past that.
Right. Because the whole time, too, as they're talking about him, 43-0, I'm like, okay, well, maybe he's 43-0, but he's still climbing the ranks. Like, oh, also, he's like this unified champion of everything. Yeah. Oh, no, this is like the greatest boxer in the world right now. And again, there's like, oh, things happen. Oops, whatever. But Flobo, this is where I feel like the movie started to feel like multiple movies, because we get this setup that feels very cliche, the boxer whose wife wants him to quit. But then she dies and the daughter's taken away. As I'm watching this movie, I kind of felt like this movie should have been about the daughter and her trying to live with everything being taken away from her.
So it's funny because I didn't really think about that at the time. I was more concerned about the dialogue doing a lot of heavy lifting of juggling those stories at once. But hearing your assessment going, that's like a bunch of movies. In fact, in my notes, I had the scene where he goes into looking for the guy, and it's like the girlfriend wife with the kids, and she's obviously under the influence. I actually paused it.
Is that Rita Ora? Is that who that is?
It could be. I have to look that up. But I paused it. Like, who wrote this garbage? And I was like, oh, Kurt Sutter. I love The Shield. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so interesting that because of the dialogue having to stretch everything. So you have 50 Cent, so he has to say, yeah, Billy, I got you that contract. See, I go, okay, but you're right. There's just too many movies happening at once that no dialogue can make that sound organic to push everything forward at once.
Right. And they had a lot of time in this movie too. It wasn't an overly long movie, but it was like 2 hours, I think, which means it definitely had its time. But yeah, I couldn't tell if this was trying to be a famous boxer loses it all, a child trying to live with the loss of their parents, or
50 Cent trying to grow his business.
Yeah, like
That's it.
50 Cent trying to grow his business, or is it supposed to be gritty street level dealing with moms who are on drugs? Like, what is this trying to be? It just, like, again, every individual piece felt great. Like I said, I think the acting was great. I think
it was Radar, by the way.
And good call, Andy.
Well, because I was thinking, I'm like, oh, they're gonna bring her back. She's like a pretty well-known name, and then nope, just a quick little crackhead scene, kind of like what's her name? What's her name in Training Day? Macy Gray. Macy Gray has that quick cameo, and you're like, oh, we'll probably see Macy Gray again. And it's like, no, just a quick crackhead. Rachel McAdams.
Wow, that is like the thing you do. Like, if you're a singer that is trying to just get a quick movie shot, you play a crackhead
quickly.
Yeah. If you're a crackhead, everything you do is quickly.
That's true. That was funny though, how the gun was to her head, and then like she's like, no. By the way, do you still got some crack? Like, it's like,
don't put it like that.
But I wanted to talk about Rachel McAdams. I know she's only in the movie shortly, but I think her death scene is great, by the way. I was feeling all that with her and Billy, just like her saying like, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. And then it's almost like she realized she was dying. Am I okay? Am I okay? And then all of a sudden it was like, she started talking about the daughter, like, go to our daughter, make sure the daughter's okay. That was pretty heavy. And I thought that was very well acted in that part. But again, do we know who shot her? Was it his brother? Or whatever, his buddy.
I thought it was one of Escobar's friends.
Right.
But
yeah. One of the guys.
The movie is clear that they never find who did it, though.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it can't be. I'd be another storyline at best. And if it was Escobar, they won't let him fight either. So
yeah, we know it wasn't him because he looked. Right. You could tell he looked surprised. He's great too. I had to look him up. I thought he was like a professional boxer or something, but no, he's just an actor.
Yeah, the performances. I don't want to take in my critiques. I don't want to take anything away. I thought the performances all around were very well done. Like I said, I didn't know which way this movie was supposed to be taking me. And as we kind of continue on to this next part, Billy's friend drives him to an old rundown gym where he asks the coach there, Tick, to train him. Tick says, you can't do anything unless I say so. And if you want a job, you can clean toilets. And Billy says, nope, and leaves. Billy moves into a rundown apartment and goes to see his daughter and is asked if he has a job or if he's done drugs, and he's being really difficult about it. Billy gets to see his daughter, but she doesn't want to see him, so he heads back to the gym to take the job cleaning the rundown building. Flobo, am I being unrealistic when I say it feels weird that this guy who was that rich, that famous, that successful can't crash at anybody's house, can't get any hookups for a job?
Where's John's house?
He doesn't know anybody. Like, if I was frustrated that this was like bro, you were the most successful boxer on planet Earth, and there's not a soul that you can just go like, hey, I'm gonna crash your house. Can you hook me up with a job for a few months?
Oh yeah, so I was in film school, graduate, and they let me graduate. We had what was called these little cycle films, and that's a really common problem at the amateur filmmaker level. Oh, rent's due, might as well strip. Like there's a bunch of steps that characters seem to not take, and so when I saw that happen, to your point, I go, man, this feels like something that got cut out. Maybe they wanted to be associated with them. I needed those scenes, but there really wasn't anyone established in his network. There was no grandma. There was no like best friend from the block. So I guess it makes sense, but it does seem like it was a very empty space to go like, well, guess I'm going to the dusty old gym to start over.
They really knock it down your throat too, because they're like, he's an orphan from Hell's Kitchen, and she's also an orphan, like during the commentating for the first fight. So I think they're really trying to say like, he's got no one. But But I was just thinking, remember that guy? I felt so bad for, I think his buddy's name is John.
John, yeah.
I came to go visit him and he's like, get out of here. Get out of here, John. And John's like, I just want to help. Couldn't he have just stayed with that guy? That guy's got to have a place, right?
Yeah, crash on his, like I said, you can't crash on a couch for like a month or whatever. Like if I had a friend that had previously been worth $100 million or whatever it was he was worth, that hit rough times and had previously given me like fancy watches and all this other stuff. Yeah, man, you could sleep on my couch for a little bit while you get back on your feet. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, 50 cents probably got a nice place.
Also, you're telling me that again, all this thing, I think about the news. You're telling me that like TMZ is not going to pay you like $100,000 for the exclusive on what you're feeling at the moment. Like you can't put together any money like at all.
Jack,
like
where's your TV deal?
It was quick though. It's like Rachel McAdams dies, and then it's like, oh yeah, by the way, you have no money. It's like,
yeah. By the way, I was thinking Rachel McAdams wasn't holding that together. If that's the situation he was in, she was. It wasn't like because it wasn't like the next. It was like the next day. Like, by the way, we're taking your house. Like that is a process. They don't just go, oh, the person who was running your accounting died. Guess it's time to take everything you own.
And he just fought and he just won. So unless he had like the worst payday ever, they're like, we're going to give this one's just for free, right, Jake?
Yeah, Taco Bell coupons.
So that definitely it bothered it just this stuff just bothered me. But Andy, this is a small thing that bothered me too. Is we go to the gym and we see that they're boxing and the coach says like, hey, clean the ropes to a Hop, I think is what his name was later. And he says, and the kid's like, I don't want to clean the ropes. So he's like, do 50 push-ups. You've been an athlete before. You've had a coach. I've never heard anyone just like have a coach be like, hey, do this, and have the person be like, I don't want to do it. Like, that's what you're there for, to do what the coach tells you to do. Like, I see people begrudgingly do things like, oh, this sucks. But I've never seen anyone just be like, no. Like, what?
Especially terrible decision. He didn't want to wipe down the ropes, and instead now he's got to do 50 push-ups, which is much harder.
Yeah, and clean the ropes, I'm sure.
And still clean the ropes, Dummy. What an idiot.
What
Hope nothing bad happens to him.
So because it's so funny because like this is going back to the no one wants to train him. I also think if Floyd Mayweather lost one fight, no one would want to train him. I think anyone would be willing to hitch their wagon to Floyd. Like Conor McGregor's lost now at this point a few times, and I'm sure if Conor McGregor was like, "Can I get a coach?" he'd have a line around the block of people who want to coach him. This again, just very, I guess, like it seems silly, Flobo, and correct me if I'm wrong. It just feels like to me this movie would have felt so much like, for lack of a better term, richer if he was not a successful boxer first, or if he was a regular person. It felt like him being a successful boxer kind of hurt the movie to me. I would have rather he was a mailman who was trying to box on the side or whatever, a regular job. And that was the problems he was dealing with. But him being successful made everything feel.
So you wanted it to be Warrior.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
It reminded me of those video games, that first level, you have all the power-ups, you beat the boss, and he goes, that's how it happens in my head. Let's take you back. And then you have like nothing and you start from scratch. No, I think that is the original sin of this movie. It's either it has to be the guy that has everything top of the world, wife dies, and then everything crashes down. We're on the ride for that, which is funny because if that was a plot you gave to Scorsese, the movie would be 8 hours long. Or it's the thing you were saying, someone who's just pretty much a scrub trying to work their way up. We're getting both. And if you're both, you're neither.
Right. I think that's a great way to say it. Because I also, because we didn't see the rise of him coming up, a lot of the weight of the characters and things like that, it didn't, I guess, since I didn't see him come up, like Tandy was saying earlier about Maureen not wanting him to box anymore. Like, was she happy about it originally? Was she like, I don't have any buy-in with these people. They're all already great. I don't know why I care about them is something that hurt me a lot.
Yeah. And that's why you go into seeing the celebrities' faces, because there's no character reason to latch onto. You're like, oh, okay, 50 Cent.
Right.
And I think too, like even the training montage, which was great, some good training stuff. But it's kind of like, did he need that? He was already the, champion of 4 different divisions, or not divisions, federations, whatever that is in boxing. And he needs to get better. I don't know. I mean, that's good that he's getting better, but he's already great.
Right. So speaking of getting better, next day at the gym, Billy's watching Tick train some kids, and he connects with a kid named Hoppy, who was talking back to the coach earlier. Billy goes to the bar, and his coach is there, and Tick asks him why he's there. And after an outburst, Billy finally admits he has no plans now that his wife is gone, and he's just trying to get his kid back. But Tick says it's not about Billy, it's about his daughter, and Billy needs to let his daughter deal with things her way. Billy leans into coaching, especially Hoppy, and Billy continues to visit his daughter even though she doesn't want to see him. Billy gives the social worker one of his daughter's toys to sleep with and asks her to give it to his daughter and tell his daughter that he loves her. But back at the gym, Tick notices changes in Billy and says training starts now. So before we get into that training portion, Flobo, this is really just, I think, the portion of the movie where we are showing that Billy is making changes, and it's not necessarily a montage, but it feels kind of like a time is passing and Billy's doing the right thing.
Yeah, but I guess it comes after rock bottom, which is it losing the house or having to clean bathrooms or losing your daughter? Like, I like it. I'm on board. I want to see him redeem himself, but at the same time, I really am not on board on a character level. Like, I feel like I am just watching the stage play occur at this point. So you go, okay, the next step is going to be the training montage. So I'm glad you stopped there, because I was like, when's that happening? Checking my watch.
Yeah. And Andy, I thought this was one of the best acting and kind of moments of the movie, is when Tick is saying, it's not about you, it's about your daughter. You got to let her process. You can't force things. But then this is, again, a moment in this movie where I'm like, is this a movie about him and his daughter? Or is this a movie about him trying to be a boxer? Is this a movie about him trying to get his life together? Or is this a movie about him trying to be a champion? Like, what is this? What is this movie? But I like that scene.
Yeah, it's kind of like this is where the other movie starts. Like, I feel like that happens throughout the movie. It's like, okay, this is the movie about this. So, this is the movie about the Forrest Whitaker character and all that. Like, that could have been its own thing. I think this movie probably would have been a lot better off being like a series, follow the series of Billy Hope. And his name's Billy. That's a great name, by the way, Billy Hope. Yeah. But like following his kind of rise and fall would have been more interesting.
Billy Hope's a good name, but it does feel a little bit like, this is my main character, Billy Everyman. You know what I mean? It's like a little too, okay.
Yeah,
we get it.
But
damn, he looks good.
I will say nothing will ever beat Rocky VI's antagonist, Mason the Line Dixon. Favorite boxing name of all time.
That is a
Rocky
name.
Man. Clubber Lang, I always thought was such a great
Clubber
name.
Lang,
Ivan Drago, by the way.
Yeah.
All their
classic.
Apollo Creed.
Just fantastic names.
Yeah. Bravo.
Yeah. I thought Miguel Escobar was cool until we just ran down all of Rocky's nemesises.
Yeah.
Nemesis.
And we can't forget Tommy Gunn.
Yes, we can.
What mascot?
So
we'll edit that out.
Yeah.
Rocky 5 doesn't exist.
During training, Tick tells Billy he needs to learn to fight, not fight angry, and to start protecting himself, to jab, to defend, blocking. Stuff you would have thought a world champion would have learned by now, but I digress. Later,
oh, really?
Billy visits his daughter, and this time she lets him see her. They do some homework, and even though there is improvement, it's another 30 days before all this is over. But hey, Tick showed up to the court hearing, so he must be supportive. Back at the gym, Billy Hope is offered a fight for charity. Meanwhile, Hop is having trouble at home. Back with his daughter, Billy lets her know that he can't get her out, and she hits him and says he's the one that should have been killed before she's dragged away. At the charity event, Billy uses the advice of Tick and fights for points, not for blood, but gets in the zone and knocks out his opponent. After the match, 50 Cent is there and wants Billy to fight again in Vegas in 6 weeks for the title. Billy says he wants to do it, but Tick says he doesn't train pros. At the gym, Tick is pounding a punching bag and lets Billy know that Hop was killed by his father. Tick blames himself for letting it happen. Tick agrees to help Billy train for his fight with Escobar, and Billy gets his daughter back. At Billy's apartment, he talks with his daughter about who is supposed to take care of who, and they go to see Marine's grave. Billy agrees to let his daughter be there for the title fight, and then the training starts, and we get the mandatory boxing movie training montage. Flobo, a lot of stuff happens here, but I got to start with the very obvious thing. Why is this guy who's a 43-0 undefeated world champion never heard of blocking in his life?
I have no idea. He's just fighting too angry for the streets. I go, what? Like, all the years you put in boxing training, you're angry all the time. You're Mark Ruffalo in the Avengers movie. Are you kidding me? I didn't buy that one bit. And I don't train pros, but you want to fight this guy? I just totally renege what I believe in. I'm going to train pros. It's the most stupidest thing I've seen in a while in these kind of films.
It's Andy, to your point about it being a series, I feel like this is a book. Like, this is a book where you have different characters and different things going on, and you can develop certain stuff. But like, I get that, the Hop story, Hoppy or whatever. I get why that's touching, but at the same time, kind of irrelevant. I feel like
irrelevant.
I feel like even the daughter, to a degree, kind of irrelevant in the boxing sense of this movie, which is the heaviest part of the movie. I guess she grounds him a little bit, but like this custody battle, I don't know. It feels like the movie doesn't know what it wants to be, I guess, is what I keep coming back to.
Yeah, and poor Hoppy. I'm like, oh, this is going to be like the young upstart. And now here's the other movie, and that's Billy is going to train this little boy to be like this champion. That's what I thought. That's what I thought they were going. And then then they just kill him. I'm like, why? Why did you need to do that? And it happened right after something happens, and then Forrest Whitaker's beating on that. He's just punching the shit out of that thing. And then it's like, hey, yeah, Hoppy died. And it's like, wait, which guy was Hoppy? I'm like, wait, was that the little kid? Wait, they killed him? I don't know why.
I thought when Hoppy was first introduced, I thought what was going to happen is Hoppy and Billy were going to be palling around, and then Hoppy was going to start getting some bad habits, and Billy was going to learn about himself by seeing Hoppy doing the wrong thing and going, oh, you can't let people punch you. That's going to hurt you or whatever. And that was going to be what clicked for him.
That movie sounds great. I want to see that one.
Yeah, I'd see that.
Yeah, for sure.
But again, I was like, I don't get why it felt like it was just an unnecessary.
Yeah, it seemed at 43-0, you wouldn't really need somebody to retrain you, but having him as somebody that's 43-0, you would think he would be training other people, even maybe his daughter. Maybe he starts like teaching her how to stand up for herself, or, Hoppy. Instead, yeah, that is interesting. They're just like, no, we're going to show the champion get trained even better to an amazing song. That's like that Eminem Phenomenal song. I love that. I'm a sucker for montages. So like, montage.
A good music track over a training montage. I was like, I'm going to go and I got to start lifting, I tape my fists up, and then I was like, I look cool. And then I stopped there.
I like that mask. Do you see the mask he had on too? That little Bane mask he had, which I don't think really does anything, but made him look cool when he's like pushing those tires.
No, I have those. They really much make you feel like you're on Mount Everest. Like you'll suck wind hardcore.
Oh, okay.
And then black out. So I have a question though. and this is also my notes, and it's kind of complicated, but like would it be different if Billy Hope was at rock bottom, got the offer for the charity event or the title match in 6 weeks, then went to Tick? Will that be a better thing? The same scene just rearranged, or is that already fundamentally broken at this point?
I think that I think the elements of this movie, I don't know if it's necessarily even the order for me anyways. And Andy, I'd love your thoughts on this. Is there are certain parts of this movie that are wildly cliche, but I'm okay with cliches. I'm absolutely okay. It's fun to see. Like, Rocky is such a cliche movie, super fun to watch. But then there are certain elements of this that are so serious and gritty, it feels like it's trying to be something more than that. And I don't think those two things go together. And I think that's where the disconnect happens for me a lot. Is, okay, we've got this cliche guy that I became a champion by letting people punch me in the face over and over again. And now I'm learning to do something very basic like block. Yet, okay, I get that. That's cliche and silly, but now you're trying to have this like gritty, oh, this kid had a tough life and he was killed by his dad, and I'm trying to get my daughter out. Like, is this a serious movie or is this a superhero movie? Like, what are we watching is where I was at. But Andy, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think if you just would have made him like, his record is 3-2 or something, and he's on the ups, and like people are like, oh, this guy might have something. I think that would have been more interesting. But he already had it all. I don't know. It's like you were rooting for him, but you weren't.
And not to circle back to the beginning again, but I think a lot of it is because we saw him starting at the top. And so when he lost everything, I didn't feel for him losing it because I didn't see him earn it. It was just like, I guess it's kind of like when a trust fund baby loses their money. You're like, well, you had a good start, but you lost it. I don't know where it came from. So I don't really care, as opposed to if you found out someone had worked really hard, saved a lot, did the right stuff, and then something happened and they lost everything, you go, oh, that sucks so much. I never really got that. I was like, oh, you had it all and you lost it.
Yeah, even using like that, because like I said, Eminem was originally cast. If you would have taken that 8 Mile story, like that part at the end, you feel it. It's such a great ending because he goes through all that. And he's kind of starting at the bottom, and then he finally gets to that battle, and then he tells Anthony Mackie, or he battles Anthony Mackie, and whatever his name is. What's his name in that?
Clarence.
Clarence, yeah.
He's Falcon to me.
Yeah, Falcon.
God.
Clarence parents have a real good marriage. But that part is great because you that's what you deserve. Like he was building, and then finally he gets his moment, ups and downs, where Billy was already up, and then he's down, and then he's kind of back up, seemingly.
It feels a little bit like if they made a movie about Tom Brady and we're like, yeah, this Super Bowl winning champion, his wife left him, but then he came back and won a Super Bowl. You're like, okay, yeah, that's what he does. I don't know.
By the way, Hoppy's dead here too.
Yeah.
Tom Brady, like, I don't care about Hoppy. I'm here for Super Bowls.
And the daughter stuff I thought was great, having that relationship. I didn't really know why she like hated him so much for a little bit there, and then she like liked him again, and then she didn't. Like that was for me a little bit hard to follow too, because she was like so sad that initial 30 days, and then I even was thinking, I'm like, what happened in those 30 days where people just talking all sorts of crap about her dad, and then she's like, oh, now I changed my mind, now I don't like him. I don't know, it was weird.
Yeah,
that's why I think if the movie focused more on the daughter and like what she was going through while she was in the system, and I think if you had a dad that again maybe just had a regular blue collar job and instead of lost everything because of, with what happened, I think if it was more like I can't make ends meet with one paycheck, and now that my wife is gone, I don't have two, and how do I get I think that is such a more touching story than this guy who just signed a $30 million deal as the greatest fighter in the world. Is, I don't know. I feel like the daughter's story was the story that had the most like interest to it. And I feel like they just brushed over it for some boxing scenes.
Yeah. And I feel like there's like 7 movies now we count by, because there's also the eye injury too. I thought that was going to be something also. Couldn't see. Like, is that going to be a thing? We forgot about that.
Right. Yeah, it was just like, and it was very brushed off, very like a funny little like, oh, I got in a fight. Oh, really? No, not really.
Yeah, I still don't really know. Like, was it the fight or was it the other thing?
Who knows?
Who cares?
In any case, it's time for the fight, and we hear the backstory between Hope and Escobar. We see that Billy's former manager and trainer are now against him. The new style of fighting defensively works at times and doesn't at others. He gets a cut in his eye that worries everyone, including his daughter, and Escobar gets a cut as well. And eventually, and in the final rounds, everything seems even. Escobar makes things personal when he talks about Billy's wife, and now it's time for the gruff part of the Billy Goat. But Tick reminds him that his daughter is watching him, and it's time for Billy the Great to return. The two go back and forth until time slows down, and Billy uses this time to throw a southpaw uppercut and knock out his rival, though Escobar is saved by the bell. It goes to the judges with a split decision saying, and new world champion, Billy the Great Hope.
Can we talk about that Southpaw punch? It's the Daniel-san Karate Kid crane kick,
Yes.
It's not going to matter. I watch UFC fights all the time. They switch up back and forth, from Southpaw to Orthodox, and it's like, okay. Like this was like, whoa, he's switching sides.
I feel like if you're a boxer or if you have boxing background, this movie is infuriating for you,
probably
in certain ways to watch. So you just can't. I'd imagine you'd be very frustrated watching this, but Flobo, I want to. There was one thing that I liked about this, and I love that it went to the judges, and the reason why is because there's a little moment earlier in the movie when Billy talks to Tick and says, "My manager paid off the judges, and that's the only reason I beat your guy." And then we go to the judges, and it shows. I thought this was great directing. It shows 50 Cent clapping and smiling. And implying that maybe he paid off the judges again. I just thought that was a good little callback. I don't know if it mattered to you, but I liked that.
I did catch that, and it was definitely something to think about. But by this time, I had been so burnt out by the promises of this movie. I'm like, you don't get to do that movie. You don't get to do that at all. Like, don't give me some layers now. Like, what the hell? It reminds me of like Rocky 6, where spoiler alert, they filmed it one way and they ADR'd it the other way just to make sure they weren't sure who's going to win that match between Dixon and Rocky. And I thought that was cool, but this was like, no, sorry.
Yeah, it was with the way this movie went, I almost would have rather they let us know that Escobar killed the wife and then had Billy Hope just beat the crap out of him in the final round and knock him out. To get that feeling of you got to come up. But this almost felt, and Andy, I'd love to know your take. It almost felt like half and half. I didn't feel like he really got a comeuppance or he really got to right or wrong. It just felt kind of like, hey, he won again.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the fighting in this does look very realistic, which is great. Kind of different than some of the Rocky movies where Stallone's just taking a million punches and they're all super punches. So yeah, and I think it was probably more realistic, especially having the split decision. But from a cinematic perspective, I don't think split decision, that's the most lame thing you could have. You want him to just have a final, crazy just barrage of punches. So yeah, I think he should have just knocked him out for sure. But yeah, you're right. There wasn't anything. I was kind of like, yeah, this Miguel Escobar is a pretty skilled fighter. He wasn't too. I mean, he talked a lot of shit, but he wasn't evil. I didn't think.
You would expect a boxer to talk trash. I would. I would be doing that. It's normal. And especially if you're gonna have I say a superhero kind of boxer, because again, we're not they're treating him like he was the underdog, but at the end of this movie, his career was 44-1, and he's a 2-time champion. So not quite the underdog. I don't, regardless of what happens, he's 44-1 is a pretty good record to be retiring on, even though he'll probably continue to fight after this.
I do got to ask you both a question. What were your thoughts on him coming out to no music?
I kind of liked it.
Oh, I didn't even realize it.
Yeah, they made a big deal. They're like, he's not coming out to any music.
I
don't know. I was like, lame. I was thinking of Apollo Creed, living in America.
He got his ass kicked in that song. Oh, he literally died that night. Andy.
But he took the moment. He didn't know he was gonna die. He went out. I mean, Gyllenhaal could have died too. Your last moment's gonna be you silence.
I kind of liked it. I thought it was, but again, it felt like an interesting little nugget, but it didn't feel like it fit in with all the other stuff that had happened in this movie. I didn't feel I like the daughter watching on. That didn't feel like it didn't feel like special to me.
Well, she wasn't there either. I thought that was a weird thing too. She was there, right? But maybe in box seats or well, I don't even know.
She was in the locker room or something.
Yeah, it's no, put her out there. I think that would have been more interesting.
Because I thought they even did the thing when he lost his fight where he looked to the place where his wife usually sat and there was no one there. So I thought in this fight he was going to look and then see his daughter, and that was going to kind of give him that final push. But
yeah,
she was just there hanging out with the social worker for some reason.
Yeah.
It seemed like a weird social worker really going above and beyond.
social worker was into it too.
Yeah.
I was even wondering, I'm like, oh, is that going to be like a love interest? Like, is Billy going to go off with the social worker?
I mean, Naomi Harris. I mean,
blame him.
You can do worse. The social worker was mean at first, but then when she saw him winning the championship,
moves in the house. God, you didn't stop now.
I didn't see him with his shirt off before.
Good.
So, I mean, in the end, I guess as a wrap up, this movie, it tried to be too much. I think the performances were really good. I thought the soundtrack was good. I thought the directing was good. I think just at the end of the day, they tried to do too much with what they had and tried to be too many things. And so I never felt like I actually connected to any real part of the movie. So I think the 60% is a little fair. I think 60% is a fair rating. That's my overall thoughts. Flobo, you get the last word on the movie, but Andy, what were your overall thoughts?
Yeah, I actually echo everything you just said, and it was a weird experience for me. I think I picked this one, right? SOUTHPAW.
Maybe, I can't remember. Yeah, it sounds like you.
Because I mean, I remember this building up. I'm like Kurt Sutter. And then when I heard Gyllenhaal was signed on, like, I love, fighting movies. I was like, oh my God. And then I saw it at the theater, and I think I was just like, with the sounds of like the soundtrack and like the fights, I was all in on this, and I'm like, this movie is amazing. And then I watched it last night, and I was kind of like, did I not see all of it before? Or was I not paying attention? Like, yeah, it just didn't hit as great as it did last time. But, it was also 7 years ago? My math is probably off. So maybe my choice in movies has changed, or maybe I pay attention a little bit better now that we do this show. I don't know, but enjoyed it. But yeah, I think I would give it a 62.
I love everything you just said, because you loved this movie. You came back and watched it and then found yourself maybe not feeling like you felt the same way. Right. That was how I felt going back and when we rewatched Way of the Gun, because I saw that. Now that movie's like 20 years old now, but like, I remember when I saw that in theaters, like, this movie's sick. And then we like put it on to watch it for the show. And I was like, oh,
wait, what is this movie? Right. What was that other movie I watched when I was 18?
Oh my gosh.
I was super into it then. Now I'm what is this?
I think we dissected that first scene of that movie like a dozen times in film school. I can't even finish it. Like the one with Sarah Silverman. Was that Sarah Silverman? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Baby heads?
That's a different movie too.
Sorry, not the point.
Anyway.
First of all, I want to say congratulations. It's like your second go around, right? Your second evolution of movies.
We're almost done. We're almost done with the second season, and thank you. We're very behind schedule because of me. So let's not start counting eggs or chickens or whatever, however it goes. But thank you.
Wait, man, I have a quick contest for you, Jack. Real quick trivia. Can you name each movie that Flobo's been on?
Ooh.
Flobo was on this one. Flobo was on Men in Black. Flobo was on
Swayze.
One more.
It was Roadhouse.
Yep.
I was doing that. I was like, come on, Jack, you got this.
I knew Roadhouse, but the name was escaping me. Like, I was seeing all the visuals of the movie, and I was just trying to remember the name. For some reason, I kept wanting to say Fight Club, and I was like, it's not Fight Club. It's there's fights in clubs, but it's not Fight Club.
That's a good point. That's a good pun. Like a Southpaw pun. Okay, real quick. I have some notes here for the movie. I'm not sure if it makes any sense now. I just want to say that I looked it up, and even though it takes place in Pittsburgh, the movie was made in Indiana, Pennsylvania, which sounds like a fake town.
Wait, Indiana, Pennsylvania?
Yeah, it was actually recorded in
Indiana,
Pennsylvania.
That sounds like where the Simpsons, like, next to
I was gonna say. Huh?
It goes from captivating to community theater on a dime. It feels like a movie that will play in the background of another movie, like McBain.
Yeah,
that's so funny.
And my last question is it a stereotype that boxers can't read well? Because it felt like that was also shoehorned in this one.
Yeah, it was shoehorned in there, and I think when it happens, I think it's just the idea that he gets punched in the head a lot, and that he's never lived a life where his intelligence was something that matters.
Oh, that's pretty sad.
Is kind of what they're implying with that, is that he never had to read before. His wife always did it, but it does feel a little odd. Like, yeah,
boxers don't know how to read.
Yeah,
boxers don't know how. If we had subtitles to our shows, it'd be called "Boxers Don't Know How to Southpaw." Boxers don't know how to read. This was an interesting episode. Flobo, I appreciate you being on. Did you have any other comments? Did you want to talk more about?
Southpaw mascot.
I thought it'd be funny if you started with like, these are my notes I haven't gotten to yet. Most cohesive movie I've ever seen.
It's only highlighted by evening. Yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal is a freight. What is it? He's a freight.
A dream
freight.
Dream freight.
I live in a world where 50 Cent's a bad influence. Can you believe this? He was not a good guy in this movie at all.
I will say 50 Cent, though, when he's offering him the championship fight, something I forgot to say, he does a very good sell your soul to the devil kind of like, I'm gonna rip you off, but could be the answer to all your problems. Like he actually did that part very well.
I wish he didn't have that line later though. He says to Escobar, he says something like, "Hey man, you should beat him. I only gave him 6 weeks to train." Like, and I was like, "Oh, come on."
Yeah, like
we get what you did.
Right. And it's not like he's been out of the boxing game forever. It's like, if you look at the timeline of the movie, it was literally like 2 months.
Yeah.
And then 6 weeks to train. It wasn't like it's probably about when he would have been fighting his next fight anyways.
Yeah. He didn't give him 6 days.
Yeah. It's in any case. That does it for us. That does it for Southpaw. Let us know in the comments what you thought of the movie. Are we crazy for what we're saying? But before we wrap up, Andy, can you 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon this bad boy?
Ooh. Yeah, this is a good one. So I tried to play around with this one. So Forrest Whitaker won an Oscar for Last King of Scotland, and James McAvoy was in that. James McAvoy, of course, is Charles Xavier in X-Men First Class, which is with Kevin Bacon.
I'm so glad you said that, because for some reason I have been waiting for you to use X-Men First Class to get to Kevin Bacon. I don't know why. Every time we do this, I'm like, how could we get to X-Men First Class?
There we go. I should have done it for Silver Lining Playbook with Jennifer Lawrence, because she's in X-Men First Class.
Oh yeah, you could.
Duh.
I did De Niro. De Niro and Sleepers.
Oh, I forgot. I did the Dead Body Evolution movies. That's the other one I did.
Oh yeah.
That's
Body. Right.
Yeah.
Our lowest rated one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know why I said stupid. Oh wait, Dead Body was the one starring me. But that's how.
But check it out at Dead Body Movie.
Yeah.
And on Amazon and Tubi.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, the 2-star rating we got on Apple probably from the Dead Body review.
Well,
not from the movie though.
No, the movie was good, but the review was terrible.
Especially the Clean Larry.
I literally started saying, "I'm not Jack Farmer." That's what probably killed it. Like, he's not here. He's not coming.
Yeah. So that does it for this episode. This was 2015. So our next episode, we're going to 2016 to review Nice Guys. Then we go to 2017 for Baby Driver, and 2018 for this year's cartoon movie Into the Spider-Verse. So that should be a fun one. That does it for us. Andy, where can the world find you online?
You could find me at Just Andy Rossi.
You can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media, including that brand new Hive that's been taking over social media. We'll see if it's still around by the time this episode actually airs. Flobo, where can the world find you online?
I'm also on Hive, only because I'm too lazy to sign up for Mastodon. At Flobo Boyce as well. Come through, say hi.
That does it for us, and we will see all of you guys next year.